Welcome to Ballot Battleground, Nevada. I'm your host, Ben Marjat, a reporter at KRNV News 4 in Reno. I'm passionate about making politics in this critical battleground state more digestible to the average voter and pushing past the talking points to press politicians for answers. On this show, we take deep dives into the people, ideas, and debates shaping Silver State politics. Should diapers be exempted from Nevada's state sales tax like so many other essential items? We already exempt food, feminine hygiene products, medical equipment, and more, but should child and adult diapers be added to the list? Nevada voters will get the opportunity to decide on a 25-year tax exemption for diapers this November. It's question 5 on the ballot, and unlike hot-button ballot questions like ranked choice voting and voter ID, there likely won't be much money spent on ads or opposition to this measure. Still, it's worth explaining since the wording of the ballot measure can be confusing and the concern about the loss of revenue to the state. So this week, a deep dive on question 5 with Baby's Bounty, a nonprofit that is Nevada's only consistent diaper resource. Again, there's no formal opposition to this measure. We couldn't find any group advocating against question 5, so this week you'll hear only from Kelly Maxwell, the CEO and executive director of Baby's Bounty, on why she believes it's not only an economic issue, but a health and safety issue too. And I'm thrilled now to be joined by Kelly Maxwell, the CEO and executive director of Baby's Bounty. Kelly, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk all things diapers.
Absolutely. So we were chatting before we pressed record, and it's been a minute since you yourself have had to buy diapers for your child, but you do a lot of that every single day for Baby's Bounty, right? So tell us about what the organization is and what you guys do every day for Nevada families.
Yes, I do. So as the CEO and executive director of Baby's Bounty, which is a 16-year-old nonprofit operating here in Nevada to improve health outcomes for families living in poverty. One of our main programs is our Baby Bundle program, which is a baby shower in a bag, essentially, for families living in poverty. And this provides all of the items needed to care for a newborn for the first 6 months of life. So brand new crib, brand new car seat, 25 items of clothing, bibs, rattles, baby books, really everything you would expect to receive at a baby shower. But in our case, our clients don't have friends and family to throw them baby showers and spend $400, $500, $600 on items for them. So we provide this to these families. And also it comes with a required safe sleep and baby basics course to teach them how to properly care for their newborn and to properly use the tools that we're going to give them. And that was our program for the first 12 of 16 years that we were in operation. That's all we operated. When COVID hit, we realized that there was no diaper bank in the entire state of Nevada. Most major cities have 2 or 3. And our state had, there were organizations that had diapers as part of existing programming, but there was no consistent diaper bank operating kind of a food bank model. So we created it in May of 2020, really at the onset of COVID. And we've since distributed over 4 million diapers and 8 million wipes to well over 45,000 Nevadans. And we're operating in Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Henderson, Reno, Sparks, and then we operate mobile diaper bank units in both Northern Nevada and Southern Nevada to address diaper need in the rural communities. And then, of course, we work on the advocacy side. So passing the bill through the Nevada state legislative cycle that we're going to talk about, and then moving into advocating for this ballot measure, Yes on 5.
Thank you guys for doing all the work that you guys do every day. A lot of it probably goes unnoticed from time to time, but such important work to make sure that newborns, infants, babies are happy and healthy and have a consistent supply of diapers, which as a newish father, I understand the need for that for sure. So let's talk about how we got here, which is Senate Bill 428 that kind of led us down the path to question 5 being on the ballot in November. You guys went down to Carson City last year to try and pass a bill through. What would the bill do? And how was your time trying to get that bill through in Carson City? Because sometimes that could be a challenge.
Well, indeed it was. Luckily, I had a lot of help along the way. We hired Lieutenant Governor Lisa Cano-Burkhead to work with us, and she just proved to be such an amazing resource trying to help navigate through that process. I'm not a lobbyist. I don't work in politics. I work in diapers and newborn supplies, but we knew that this was a critical time to pass this bill, and we knew that we had the folks in place that would help us do it. So it was really this legislative cycle or perhaps none other. So we traveled to Carson City and we testified 6 times for this bill. We were very lucky that not only did we have Senator Edgar Flores, who carried the bill for us, but then we had a very supportive legislative cycle. So on both sides of the aisle, through 6 votes, it was unanimous. So broad bipartisan support. Everybody, Democrat, Republican, Independent, everybody wants this bill.
For our listeners who might not be as familiar with the legislative process in Carson City, that is virtually unheard of, right?
I have heard that. This seems, I think this must be some kind of record. 6 votes, no nays. Yeah.
Pretty incredible. So that was Senate Bill 428. And in a nutshell, it amends the sales and use tax from 1955 to remove and exempt child and adult diapers from sales tax. Do I have that right?
That's correct. Yes. So what it would do is basically suspend the sales tax for 25 years. The savings for a year supply of diapers, so it costs approximately $1,200 a year to diaper a newborn. So the savings, the tax savings, so in Washoe County, you're at 8.27% sales tax, and here in Clark County, we're 8.38%. So the savings from a year of purchasing diapers would allow a family to purchase roughly an additional month's supply of diapers. So it certainly can be significant especially for our families living in poverty. But this tax abatement would affect anyone purchasing diapers. And really what it does is it rights a wrong. These items never should have been taxed in the first place. They are taxed as luxury items. And anyone who has changed a diaper in the past knows that they're not luxurious, and there's no alternative to them. There's no safe alternative. Families need these. They're preventative medical supplies is what they are. And we have an exemption for healthcare supplies already. We also don't tax feminine hygiene products, right? So medical supplies, feminine hygiene products. So this would just put us right in line with what really should have been happening all along. And 19 other states are already doing it, in the District of Columbia as well.
Why does it need voter approval in 2024 after it passed last year in Carson?
In order to amend sales tax, you do have to, it does require a ballot measure. So it did pass the Nevada state legislative cycle, and then the governor signed it into law in June, but that does put it on the ballot and it does go to the voters. Currently we have our polling looks like we have about 71% support across all voters. So there's no concerted effort against this ballot measure, very little opposition at all. Really, folks want this. We just want to make sure that folks know what they're voting for when they vote for yes on 5. This is to relieve a little bit of the burden of taxation on essential supplies. What we also know is that there are many other items that we consider essentials that we don't tax. Food, for instance, unprepared food you purchase in the grocery store. Again, these are essential items and we don't tax them. So we shouldn't be taxing diapers, and we just want to kind of correct that.
Yeah, I'll list a couple more here. Exemptions to Nevada's state sales tax include farm machinery and equipment, food, prosthetic devices, newspapers, and then feminine hygiene products from the pink tax from several years ago, as well as medical equipment. And both of those exemptions were passed via ballot measures in 2018. So you guys are essentially looking to add, again, child and adult diapers to that list. Does that include, cloth diapers as well?
These are just for the disposable diapers, both adult and child diapers. We have found, and cloth diapers are a wonderful alternative. They're not necessarily practical for a lot of our clients, and they do provide a barrier to daycare for families. So there's only one daycare in the state of Nevada that will take children with cloth diapers. So unfortunately, disposable diapers are without a safe and valid alternative. So we're really providing the tax exemption there.
Gotcha. And they're critical for children going to daycare. I mean, you can't take your kid to daycare. Some people might think that they supply all the diapers. And me as a new father, I know because I'm taking that pack of diapers, pretty much once a week, a new pack to our daycare provider. And so that can be a barrier for people as well, because at least in my case, they have to change my son's diaper every 2 hours. So they're going through, at minimum, probably 5 per day.
Exactly. So most daycares require 8 to 10 diapers. And what we know from the national data is that the families who rely on daycare, on average, a quarter of them have called in sick 5 times in the last month because they didn't have the required diapers to take their child to daycare. So this becomes a workforce development issue, right? I'm an employer myself, and I know that if I had an employee who called in sick 5 times in the last month, I couldn't keep them as an employee, even if I wanted to, just that unreliability. So we know for sure that if we help in this seemingly small way, we can get these folks back on track. The majority of our clients are working. I think there's an assumption that people who attend diaper banks or food banks, that they're not working. With inflation creating these, just everything is so much more expensive. Our families are just not able to make ends meet. Diapers themselves went up 185% since COVID. They're not going. Right. We don't see that waning at all. And I think it is important to note that, Baby's Bounty is purchasing about $1 million in diapers a year to distribute at all of our diaper banks, mobile diaper banks, and the Diapers for Diplomas program. We purchase tax-free already as a 501c3, and I purchase at pennies on the dollar of what folks pay retail because I buy the semi-trailer full. So this we're doing for the state. We're doing for this is a public service, right? This is what we can contribute to the community that we all love. I'm a native Las Vegan, native Nevadan, born and raised here, and I really saw an opportunity to help my fellow Nevadans, and I see that they're struggling, and if they had just a little bit of help, they could make it. They could afford the diapers. And then Baby's Bounty exists to fill that gap between what families can afford and what the children really need to keep them clean, healthy, and dry.
We know it's an economic issue, of course, and that little savings that they might have by not paying the sales tax, they could use to buy more diapers or formula or a car seat, or name any sort of item that money could be reinjected back into the economy. But let's hold that thought for a moment and talk about the health and safety issues of not changing your child, your infant, enough. I mean, because that opens up a whole new can of worms where children can really suffer from a number of different problems, right?
Absolutely. So statistically, families living in poverty will wind up in the hospital far more often with diaper rash, viral meningitis, infections, urinary tract infections, things like that, because they can't change diapers on a regular basis. So when a diaper bank in a state is properly funded, we see statewide medical costs go down about $3.2 million. We know for sure that not providing diapers to families in need creates a huge burden on a state's budget. This helps out in many ways. But yes, children are at risk for a whole host of really poor health outcomes when they don't have enough diapers. The other part of this is that families often don't have the diapers they need and wind up in situations where it looks like neglect, but it really is just poverty. So there have been cases where CPS has to get involved because the parents don't have the money for the diapers, and then the child sits in a dirty diaper for 2 days because they just don't have the money, where they want to do what's best for their child, but it's a financial issue, not a neglect issue.
Absolutely. Buying 2 packs of diapers at Costco can run you $100, and with inflation and the price of everyday living right now, some families just might choose to put food on the table instead of diapers, and that's a heartbreaking decision to have to make. Let's look real briefly at kind of the national landscape around this issue, because some states handle it a little bit differently. You mentioned 19 states, including Washington, D.C., exempt diapers from taxation. 26 states do not exempt diapers from taxation, and 5 states just don't have a state sales tax. So Nevada looking to be the 20th state to exempt all diapers from taxation. In 30 seconds, what's your case to a Nevada voter who maybe they're worried, and we'll get to this, but about the loss of revenue for the state? What would your case be to that voter that maybe has that concern, why they should vote for question 5 in November?
Sure. Well, I'll say two things. Number one, in a profound endorsement from our Nevada State Treasurer, right? He's in charge of the money for the state. When he wrote his letter of support for SB 428, he said, not only does the state not need this money, we certainly don't need it on the backs of working families. So first and foremost, our state doesn't need that particular money. The other thing is, charging 8.27 or 8.38% sales tax, depending on the county in which you live, that number, it certainly has a budget ramification to it. And we've estimated this is somewhere in the range of $8 million per year. So, you can imagine over 25 years, there's a number associated with it. However, that assumes that consumers then don't purchase other things with that money, right? That are assumed, that some of which are taxable, right? Like you mentioned, car seats, formula is not taxable, but other items they might need, clothing for their babies, baby bottles, right? These items are all taxable. So unfortunately, the way inflation is set up, the economy right now, folks are not going to take that money and put it in a mattress, right? They're going to buy other essentials. So those items, the vast majority of them will be taxable. So sales tax is not a zero-sum game. We're going to see that revenue just distribute amongst other items that are often taxable. So it's just a little relief from these families to try to balance that inflationary increase.
And not to mention, too, obviously this money likely going to get reinjected into the economy, but also the downstream effects of these children not having to get into the healthcare system because of an infection or a diaper rash or whatever. Those parents not having to take time off of work in order to take their child to the hospital or the doctor, what have you. So certainly a number of benefits downstream as well, right?
That's exactly it. This has so many benefits, so many trickle-down benefits that it's really foolish not to do this. This is the easiest yes on the ballot.
I believe the Legislative Council Bureau kind of ran the numbers, and they estimated, reduce the state revenue by $25 million on future biennia, and that's kind of Nevada's term for, the 2-year budgeting cycle. Is there been a calculation done as to what that would potentially take away in terms of state services, or you're saying the treasurer supports it and so he's not that worried about it?
Yeah, he wasn't worried about it at all. In fact, I would definitely encourage you talking to him a little bit about that budgetary process, because again, when the Bureau has to do those calculations, and at the time we were passing, I think it was through Finance Committee, maybe the third or fourth vote, they had put initially that number about $8 million a year to that. And yes, that does present a reduction in that general fund contribution. However, they had to make that assumption that there would be that same savings wouldn't then be used to purchase other taxable items. So I think what we're talking about is a very small percentage of our general fund. And again, the benefits so far outweigh a small reduction in our general fund contribution that we're going to make that up in many other ways.
This would take effect in January of 2025 if it were to pass, so almost immediately right after the election, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And then it runs for 25 years. How come, I know some states have done this permanently. Why is this set up so that it's a 25-year period and then it would sunset?
It's my understanding that's the only option available to us to amend the Sales Tax Act of 1955. That was put in initially, that there could be amendments and then there would be a 25-year abatement, and then they could be reviewed again in 25 years. And that's what they did with the pink tax as well.
All right, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Ballot Battleground Nevada. Voters, if you're listening, it's going to be question 5 in November. It's a simple yes or no to amend that Sales Act to remove or to include an exemption for child and adult diapers. So stay tuned and look out for that on your ballot in November. Kelly, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben.
Another thanks to Kelly Maxwell for joining me this week. Before we go, a quick update on another ballot measure we've talked about before on this show dealing with abortion. The question on whether to enshrine abortion rights in Nevada's Constitution will be question 6 on the November ballot. If you want to learn more about that effort, we'll link to a few episodes on that topic in the show notes, and more to come on question 6 later this fall. If you made it to the end of this episode, we really appreciate it. If you have guest ideas, episode ideas, questions, comments, compliments, concerns, anything at all, just shoot us an email to bjmargiot, M-A-R-G-I-O-T-T at sbgtv.com and put Ballot Battleground Nevada in the subject line. And also, if you have a minute, leave a rating and a review. That will help the podcast show up higher in searches so more people can discover the show. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back in your feed with a new episode next week.